Stay tuned for tonight's adventure with the Fat Man.
Okay, here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is. I hope it's good to be where you are because, as usual, I'm really excited to be here today. My name is Baltimore Fats, and today we're taking a little detour. Yeah! Okay, all right, have fun, guys. Okay, so I'm looking at William Penn here, right? I've pretty much decided that he's going to be the focus of the next episode on this road that's been rising to meet me, right? And so I've been digging in a little bit and I've been looking into the land grant that Charles II gives him, right? And so I found this great biography that I can't wait to share more of with you guys. And so what's happening here is, right, he's petitioned the king to grant him this land as part of, to pay off the debt that the crown owes his family. And I'll get more into that down the line. But so what it says here is that his petition was strongly opposed in the Privy Council, where political bigotry and private interest continued for a whole year to thwart its progress, right? They were really fighting this thing, filibustering or whatever, right? And it says that Penn's ideas were not popular at Whitehall. And so if you don't know what Whitehall is the palace that the monarchs lived in from like the 1300s to like 1700 or something like. For a very long time, the monarchs ruled out of the Palace Whitehall. And I think, maybe it's no coincidence that our elected monarch of Joe Biden, perhaps with the royal hidden red hand, right? That he's living in a place called the White House. White House not being that far from Whitehall. Not a coincidence, but maybe a synchronicity, right? And he says that, his Penn's eccentricities in the court had only been tolerated out of respect for his father. And that's part of the debt that Penn is trying to collect on here. And again, more on that down the line. But, one of the things that makes Penn unpopular is that he separates the throne from some of its money. And that happens in a dispute in New Jersey between the colonists and the crown. So Prince James at the time, future King James II, right? He was the Lord Proprietor of the province of New Netherlands, which is essentially New Jersey. Right? And as Lord Proprietor, he claimed a right to levy an import and export tax upon all articles entering or leaving its ports. Right? So long as he retained the territories in his own possession, this claim was not disputed. Right? And so consequently, all persons carrying goods to or from New Jersey had to pay a duty of 10% ad valorem. But what happens is that King James, according, at least as I'm reading this, King James sells off his land, right? Because it says that after the transfer of the proprietorship to Billing, right, this tax was felt by the colonists to be a grievous wrong, right? And they drew up protest against it, which they sent home to Penn, who was the acting trustee for the new proprietor. So essentially what I'm reading here is that Penn is Billings' lawyer. I think that's kind of interesting. Billings and a lawyer, trustee. Interesting play there, right? And so what happens is that Penn argues the case for the colonists, right, in front of this Sir William Jones. And look, William, you've made your way into this story here, right? And this judge, barrister, whoever he is, right, he decides in favor of Penn and the colonists. It says the Duke at once acquiesced in the decision, though it is hardly possible to believe that he would not feel sore at his defeat and angry with the man who had forced him to give up a considerable part of his revenue. Right? And it goes on to say, to the coldness of the prince was added the active hostility of Lord Baltimore, whose ill-defined possessions were supposed to be invaded by the new boundary line. Baltimore was a bigoted papist, and one of those who stood at this very moment in the Oates black list of conspirators. He was consequently not in the country, but he had powerful friends at court, ever watching over his interests. And I wonder and they're talking about the third Baron Baltimore here, Charles, right? And here he is. And so I have to wonder who are his powerful friends at court, and his ill-defined possessions. What does that mean, right? And Chucky Baltimore was on Oates' blacklist of conspirators, whatever the heck that means. So that's absolutely incredible. This story just, I can't help but say it just keeps getting better for me. Okay, and so this Sir William Jones, he decides in favor of Penn and the colonists, right? Severing the crown from this extra 10%? This extra 10%. And I was like, wow, that's That's, I guess that would ruffle some feathers in there, right? It's a good thing that William Penn's father was who he was, right? And so, of course, I had to find out who this Billing was, right? This proprietor of New Jersey. And so I found this, right? This Edward Billing, right? He was governor of West Jersey from August 1680 to January 1687. Right? He was born in Cornwall. Right? We've seen the important part that Cornwall has been playing in this story. Right? And he worked as a brewer, once again bringing that motif into it. Right? He was a brewer in London right before purchasing the land in New Jersey from one John Berkeley in 1674. And so I thought that was kind of interesting because the biography here, which again I am going to talk a lot more about, that was published in 1851. Right? And so he purchases this land in New Jersey, becomes a proprietor there with the help of William Penn and John Fenwick. Right? And he establishes a trust in which Quaker colonies were planted. Right? So we're seeing the Quakers coming over here and planting in New Jersey as early as the mid-1670s. And seeing how the biography kind of presented it as Billings gets New Jersey from Prince James, I was curious to see who this John Berkeley was that he bought it from, right? So John Berkeley, it just so happens to turn out to be, where is it? He was the Lord Lieutenant of Ireland. Right? I was like, are you kidding me? From 1670 to 1672. Right? And we've seen the responsibilities that the Lord Lieutenant of Ireland has had in the plantation of Ulster and essentially the English takeover of Ireland. Right? I thought that was really unbelievable. Again, pulling this thing, getting it closer together, right? And so he was born in Somerset, and we've seen Somerset pop in here before. And so not only is he the Lord Lieutenant of Ireland at this time, he is the brother of Virginia colonial governor William Berkeley. Right? He was a parliamentarian, a supporter of King Charles of England, where he sided with the Cavaliers during the English Civil War. And he became governor of Exeter. And my favorite joke about Exeter is, Exeter? I didn't even know I was in. Right? And so he's governor of Exeter and the commander of the royalist forces in where? In Devon. Right? Of course, in Devon. Right? He ends up going into exile into Paris after the royalists were defeated by the parliamentarians, right? And from 1652 to 1655, he serves in the French army. And I got to get rid of this pop-up. A little demonstration of how blind I really am. All right, so he serves under Vicomte du Turenne, right, during his campaigns against the rebel leader Louis the Grand and the Conde. I don't even know what the accent would be there. Right, so after the restoration of the House of Stuart, he became a member of the Admiralty, and he became a member of the Privy Council in 1663. Right? And so from 1670 to 1672, he serves as Lord Lieutenant of Ireland, right? And he was co-proprietor of New Jersey from 1664 to 1674, with this alongside George Carteret. Very interesting that these people aren't mentioned in that biography, just Prince James and then Billings. And so because of political difficulties between Berkeley and New York Governor Richard Nicholas, Berkeley sells his share of land to some Quakers, right? And then he dies in 1678. And so interesting to see the movement of the Quakers happening into the colonies, even before the arrival of William Penn in Pennsylvania. And so I think it's really amazing because here we can start to connect the Quakers to even earlier settlements, right? Because this John Berkeley, was the brother of William Berkeley. And so William Berkeley, it says about him, so he was the colonial governor of Virginia from 1642 to 1652, right? And then again from 1660 to 1677, right? So think about that. And so for the 35 years between 1642 and 1677, William Berkeley is governor of Virginia for 27 of those years, right? And it says that he was born in Hanworth Manor, Middlesex, right? The younger brother of New Jersey co-proprietor John Berkeley, right? And so he became a knight under King Charles I of England after fighting against who? The Scottish Covenanters. What? Of immortal David Poe and Alexander Payton in Bishop's Wars? And so on the heels of his successes against the Scottish Covenanters, right, he finds himself as governor of Virginia. That's really unbelievable. And he was bitterly hostile towards the Quakers. But it's a good thing that he sells so much of his land. That's unbelievable. And it says that he appoints his wife's nephew, Nathaniel Bacon. I wonder if there's any interest to Francis there. Francis, I did it all. But as Bacon does, it betrays you from time to time, right? And Bacon decides to rebel against Berkeley in 1677 due to disagreements over Native American policies. But Berkeley is able to squash this uprising, however, right? But the war between the natives and the colonists continues. Of course it does, right? And Berkeley returns to England, where he dies in Mayfair. And now that's interesting. Mayfair is going to go in the back pocket here. But man, this story is really unbelievable, and it gets even more unbelievable with something else that I found out this morning while I was looking into things, and I don't have it brought up here because it was just rabbit holing on my phone this morning. So hold on. All right, so this is a little screenshot that I took and sent to Mary early this morning. And I was Googling. I was reading up a little bit on George Fox, the founder of the Quaker faith, right? And it says here that Fox was imprisoned several times, the first at Nottingham in 1649 and at Derby in 1650. So are you kidding me? Now the Quakers come directly out of Nottingham, and that's Sherwood Forest, Papelwick, Derbyshire, Lincolnshire. It's unbelievable, right? Again, it just keeps getting tighter and tighter. Right, and that a judge mocked Fox's exhortation to tremble at the word of the Lord, calling him and his followers Quakers. So the Quakers actually get their name from Nottingham and Sherwood Forest. That is unbelievable. All right, so that's a little fun with the lies, a little detour for you. It may be a while before the next video is up. I don't know, but I just wanted to share this real quick. I thought that was a nice little amazing detour to go on. And so just because you don't know the truth doesn't mean you can't have fun with the lies, right? And so until the next one, cheers, guys.